Hi there. So this video is going to go through the teacher dashboard side of things. We're going to be using the equation y equals x minus 3. And I'm just going to take this x minus 3 portion and I'm going to bring it into the CL, use that to help me set up the correctness check for the teacher dashboard side of things. So let's get in there right now. And I'm going to set up f like a function, so just like f of x, and Desmos calls it simple function. We'll put that expression, x minus 3, in here, and the variable is x. So what we want to have happen in this problem is for basically the left-hand side and the right-hand side to equal each other, right? So when a student types in a point, I'll just type in some sort of point, 40, let's say, that would indicate that the x is 4. And we want to take that 4 that the student types in and put it into the expression x minus 3 and do the math there and see if we get 0, which is what the student types, as the answer. And that would not be correct, so we would mark that as incorrect. So what we want to do in the CL over here is use this expression, x minus 3, to help us do that. Now, because it's an ordered pair instead of just 2 separate columns in a table, we kind of have to do a little bit more work. I'm going to name a variable called first, because I'm going to take my first ordered pair and I'm going to do something called parsing it, which means taking it apart and sort of splitting it into more than one section. Right now it's all grouped together. So I want to split the content of that very first cell in that table, which is 1, 1, row 1, column 1. I want to split the x and the y apart from each other so that I can use the x over here and then use the y over here. Right now they're all grouped together. And because I have a number of different cells in this table, I need to do this a few different times. So we're going to do new variables for each of these. And fifth. And then I just need to say that they come from different spots in the table. So the first one is 1, 1, and then the next one is second row, first column, so that'd be 2, 1. And then it just sort of follows 3, 1, 4, 1, and 5, 1. All right, so I haven't done the checking yet. I've just sort of split the x and y apart from each other. And so typically my next step is to go straight to the check. So let's do that here. And let's say we want to evaluate at, and we want to evaluate first at, do we want to do the x or y? Let's do the x, dot x. And we want to see if that is equal to the ordered pair that's at the y. So the first y. And so right now it should be allowing me to do this, but you can see that I have an error message. So I'm going to really quickly go through that error message with you. So you can see that the error message says all arguments to evaluate at must be numbers. So if you look at the first part that I've done up here, all of these use this cell content. You have to use the cell content if you're parsing an ordered pair, but content doesn't mean that it's a number. But then down here, when we're using evaluate at, it has to be a number. And so even though the content will be a number, the computer's not recognizing that. So we just have to kind of add something else here to say, no, these really are numbers. So I'm going to do first, let's call it first x is equal to the numeric value of first dot x. So what that's going to do is it's going to take this thing that I've done up here, it's going to split up the x and the y. And then when we get to here, it's going to take that x and it's going to go, oh yeah, you're a number. And then I've got that, I'm calling that first x. So here I want to change it to just first x. So now down here, it's putting that number down here. And it's like, All right, we're good, except that we're not doing the same thing with the y. So let's do the same thing over here with the y component of this. Just sort of telling it, hey, this is actually a number, and we can check that. So sometimes, you know, these might be a little bit confusing. You can name it whatever you want. I just like to keep it as close to the actual definition as I can, without sort of messing up the code. So we're going to have a number of these. They're not all going to be first. This one is going to be second, third, fourth, fifth, and fifth. Now over here, we want to take second and second, third and third, where am I? Fourth and fourth. Oops. And fifth and fifth again. All right, so we've changed each of those X's and Y's that it's parsing into recognizing that they're numbers. And so now at the check level of things, we can go through and we can evaluate at. So again, the evaluate at is taking the number that the student put in for the X, it's putting it into the expression for the simple function, which is at the top of the screen, the X minus 3. So whatever the student puts in, like 5, it's going to subtract 3, it's going to get an answer of 2. And then on the other side, it's taking the Y value that the student put in, whatever they typed, and checking, is that 2? Does it equal what it's supposed to equal? So we want that to happen on each cell of the table. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And now change them that we have each of these 4th and 5th. And we're going to do the same with the X's. And because I'm doing a check here, I want to check that the first thing's happening and the next thing's happening, and I haven't yet put the and in, so I'm getting some warnings here due to that. And I don't have an and on the last one. So if I've written everything correctly, then I want to put that check variable in for my correctness sync. And let's try it out. Before I go into preview mode, I'm noticing that the graph doesn't have any CL. So let's do a read-only true there for now. And so if I try out putting different points in here, you can see that right now it's marked as wrong because I don't have anything written in. So let's put in some correct points. Let's do 5, 2. Let's do 4, 1. Let's do 10, 7, 13, 10, and 6, 3. And it's marking it correct. However, I did put in here that we're not only going to have the student enter in the information in the table, but that once they've entered it into the table, that it's going to be graphed. So now we want to go over to the graph and make that happen. So over here is the graph. We're going to go into the CL and we're going to put some stuff from this table over to the graph. I've already named it table 8 for the table. And so we're going to reference table 8 when we go to the graph. we're going to pull in numbers. So I'm going to pull in x sub 1 as being in table 8 and pull the script that I wrote in the other CL that's called first x. And so what that's going to take is it's going to take the x value from the table that we pulled out, the number part of it, and it's going to bring it over to the graph so that it can be used with the graph. It's not ready to be used yet, but it's there, and it's I guess it's ready. It's just not being used. Let's do that for the y as well, and we'll need it to do it for each of them, but let me just show you what's going to happen. Oops, y. There we go. All right, so we've got an x and a y, x sub 1, y sub 1, and go into the graph and enter in that this is something that I want to use as a point, x sub 1, y sub 1. I don't need to add the slider because it's going to come in from the CL. So in this first box, this is the x sub 1, y sub 1, and let's put in something like 6, 3, and it's plotting it over here. But if I put in another thing like 10, 7, it's not going to plot it yet because I haven't told the graph to look over here for an x sub 2, y sub 2, and then to plot a point x sub 2, y sub 2. So that's my next step. One other thing that I do for myself that I think is really a nice time saver is to say something like table is going to be table 8. And when I do that, it means that if I'm copying and pasting what I'm doing right now to another slide, that I just have to adjust the table 8 at the very top, and then I'm ready to go. Which I find to be a huge time saver. I'm going to call this x sub 2 and y sub 2. And I changed the second, I changed the first language to second. I'm going to do this for the others as well. And so this one's going to be 3s. And this is now the third. And this one over here is the 4th. And those will be x sub 4, y sub 4. X sub 5, y sub 5, and this will be the 5th. So those numbers are pulled from the table, but then for them to actually show up in the graph as a point, we need to say that x sub 2, y sub 2 is going to be a point, as well as the other ones. Now, if you add the sliders that it's sort of pushing me to add, you can, but set them instead of to like 1, which is the default, set it to like 100, and it'll be way off the graph. And then the CL will override it. So sometimes I do that when I'm just trying to get rid of those warnings. And it also helps me pick like a point color. But I'm not going to worry about that today. So now we can test it one last time. Let's go with 10, 7, 0, negative 3. Let's go with negative 5, negative 8, 6, 3, and let's make the last one incorrect. So let's go with 4, 2. So we can see here that some of them are showing up graphed. We can see 1, 2, 3, 4 points right now, and we should have 5 points. So let's check out what's happening. 10, 7 is showing up, 0, negative 3 is showing up, negative 5, negative 8, there it is, 6, 3, and 4, 2. So it's a little bit hard for our eye to pick up that 4, 2 is off. Maybe if I exaggerate it a little bit more, 4, 6, then we can see it. That makes it easier for students to check their work. And we can go through and put in the correct answer for 1 right now. Everything works and we get the check mark. That's it.